Interactive television. Boy, do we like the sound of that back in the 90s. Lots of ideas, less of actual substance to show for it. Now, CDI being the platform for everything interactive, they of course had to have a go at it as well. And for that they obviously needed a upcoming high profile promising show, so they went with Thunder in Paradise. Yeah, Philips had this real knack for betting on the wrong horse at times. But let me tell you something, brother. This game ain't half bad. Let's check it out.
To give you some context, in the early 80s we had Knight Rider, which was cool. Then we got Airwolf, which was awesome. Then we kinda opened the floodgates to a whole slew of high-powered vehicle shows and also ran out of cool intro songs. At one point someone figured a boat would be a totally cool new idea.
We now return to Nightboat, the crime-solving boat.
Faster, Nightboat! We've got to catch those starfish poachers!
You don't have to yell, Michael. I'm all around you.
Had Hulk Hogan as the star and, well, this ship sank fairly quickly. I don't even know if this ever aired here in Europe, at least I had never seen it. Upon seeing the pilot episode, game director Robert Weaver got the idea to make a tie-in game. His proposal would spawn the final two-parter of the first and final season, The Major and the Minor. During filming, extra scenes were shot for the game, which saw a release on CDI in 1995. Fun fact, show producer Douglas Swartz is also legally blind. In the show, ex-Navy SEALs turned mercenaries Spence and Brew are fighting crime in their speedboat named Thunder, which somehow manages to fit a whole friggin' control center in there.
Quiet! I will not hear another word against the boat.
It's one of those shows that's hilariously bad, over the top and just full with weird choices. It might have also been aimed towards a particular demographic. Yeah, clearly aimed at the waterpark enthusiasts. The game actually comes with a video CD containing the episode. Well, except if you're from France, looks like they got diddly squad. Guess they didn't want to dub the whole thing. Without seeing the episode, you have no clue what the heck's going on, but you also be spared from getting to really know the supposed hero of this episode, Zack, who you'll be playing as. Boy, is he unlikable.
I have the IQ of the national debt, okay? Reflexes of a cat, and I'm a hunk.
Anyway, the actual game starts after shooting the episode and we see Zack arrive at the hopeful shooting of the next season, where everyone is very excited about the game. Seemingly in their set role, yeah, the opening to the game is quite the weird fourth wall breaking mess.
The show was great, you were so cool.
Yeah, you were really good and the show was fun, but I just like to jump into the action and play the game.
Well, why not do both the show and the game? You know, interactive television. So, what's it gonna be?
When selecting the interactive TV option, you'll start an abbreviated version of the episode with some gameplay bridging the scenes. As it's mostly FMV, this game requires a digital video cartridge. Depending on how you do in the game, the scenes are slightly altered, although it hardly matters for the actual outcome. Still, at the time, quite a neat idea. The first thing you'll need to do is calibrate your controller. You can either select the Peacekeeper light gun, which the game strangely enough doesn't recommend, or everything else. For those, you just need to set the cursor speed, and you'd better put it on the fastest setting if you know what's good for you. Both a gamepad and mouse work fine, but the mouse does make things easier. I don't have my Peacekeeper on hand, but I remember it working quite well, as long as you can bring up the patience to find a setup that allows it to work properly. As we start, we find the
Morphizing acrylonitrile JPS particle organic replicant.
Right, so the Major chilling in his tank. This questionable science project needs to not kill innocents, so he needs a conscience. Clearly the best thing to do is hook him up with some Hulkamania brainwave vitamins. But it fails because Budget Kano, a dude called Rampike, hacks the Terminator, prompting it to peace out of there. Just a side note on the lunacy of this operation, they initially tried feeding it Zack's morality, the ultimate paragon of virtue.
Get away.
Perhaps the French ended up with the better deal after all? Anyway, the team goes after him and obviously they need to drag Zack along because technobabble. But he's handy right away because the highly sophisticated boat Thunder also gets technobabbled into not working. So Zack needs to take control for the first bit of actual gameplay. You're tasked with defending Thunder's 4 sides from waves of enemies, and to be honest, technically this actually works really well. You can easily switch sides with button 2, either changing clockwise with a click or hold and drag in a direction to go there instantly. Switching sides is a bit more cumbersome when using the gun, where you have to aim at the edges of the screen. There are 3 weapons at your disposal: a cannon to shoot down enemies close by, which you'll have to lead in. Ammo for this weapon will recharge. Second are the homing missiles, which you can fire off by clicking on a blip on the radar. Finally, by clicking on the boat in the center of the radar, you unleash a Q-bomb that will wipe out all bogies within the first circle. These more powerful weapons cannot be refilled. Each side has a recharging shield, and once your shield is down, the next hits will shut down weapon systems until finally ending your run. Along the way, the gameplay is occasionally interrupted by either Spence or Brew to either compliment you or, more commonly, tell you that you suck or insult anyone with any maritime experience.
Multiple bogeys incoming on your left. On your right, kid. No, the other right. Aft, kid, aft. That's behind.
Just remember that they are actually talking to Zack, it'll feel much better. Now this part of the game gets a lot of flack for taking too long, and I'm inclined to agree. Even when you don't fire a single shot, it'll take more than 5 minutes to lose. A banging soundtrack would help, but apparently someone forgot to pay the full license or something. There's just a simple loop of like 8 seconds or so. Talk about adding insult to injury, what a bore fest. Another critique often heard, at least online, is that losing is inevitable. I'm not sure why anyone would think that a game priding itself on offering different outcomes would not think to add a win state to its first stage. But let's get things straight here. Yes, you can actually win. If you manage to hold out for about 13 minutes, you'll succeed and you will start the next part with full energy as a bonus. Now, is it worth it? Well, knowing that you can win does help with motivation, and as I said, mechanically it all works quite well. There's a good variety of enemies and ways to deal with them. It's honestly quite good in concept for a CDI game. It just takes way too long for the actual challenge to start, and that's a shame. Also, the scene that follows when losing is just way too hilarious to pass up on.
Well, you really did it this time, kid. She may be down for the count.
You gotta fix it, man.
She's coming back to life. Rossett Island, ETA, 15 minutes.
For your sake, we better get there in time to save Jessica. Hyperspeed.
So win or lose, Thunder will be in top condition and you get to peruse its database for some extra background information on its systems and the villain. Honestly, this would be great for fans of the show, if it had any. There's also a little video on the island we're headed to, which is a thing that they decided had to be included. What else did these guys? Baywatch, of course. Should have known. As we arrive at the island, Hogan is already kicking the end boss's ass. Seriously, this guy is worse than most cartoon villains. Zack gets after the Major though, and first needs to deal with a bunch of jumpsuit wearing mooks. Now starts the FMV rail shooter portion of the game, where people shoot each other with
They're called soft guns. They use infrasound, isotropic, radiating, slow energy lasers.
Neutralize the enemy without killing him.
yeah, so zappity guns. I get that some gadget would work on an android, but why is Hogan the only one bringing an actual gun?
Jessica!
Because they use toys, Zack is able to take quite a few hits before going down, which is a good thing, as from his wandering around it's quite obvious he has had little military training. Zack, my dude, have you ever heard about this thing called cover?
No, I never heard of him. Why? What's going on?
The wandering seems deliberate, and it's an interesting way to increase replayability, as it will be sort of random where the video will freeze for some enemies to pop up. Shot enemies disappear right away. There's no elaborate stunts like for example in the American laser games. Although this does look less appealing, it does make it possible to make enemy placement more random as well. Since you're using an energy weapon, you'll never have to reload. Once the battery is depleted, you will have to pause your zapping for it to recharge somewhat. You'd really have to go ham on the trigger to actually run out of juice though. If you did poorly on the boat, you'll start with half health, which is still more than enough to survive. Doing so will slightly alter how the episode plays out for the final level. If you lose, well, no worries, the game will continue either way and you can just say that you're following the canon of the episode. Yeah, turns out Zack is pretty bad at this himself.
Must have taken too many hits.
For that final level we head back to the lab, where we actually started, which makes no sense. No, Seb, don't think about it too much. The important thing is that we go there and we shoot more baddies and it plays out just like the island encounter. If you lost that encounter, Zack will go in. If you won, the Major will go in. The android has the advantage of a motion tracker, which is quite handy. Apparently he also has increased health, but honestly, they seem to last about as long. Before the showdown with Rampike, he will send the intruder into a VR world to change up the scenery a bit. VR was so much better in the 90s. Our lousy current tech usually has at least a wall, a chair and a doggo as unfortunate victims. Here, for some reason no one even has the idea to just walk up for a proper kick in the bollocks. During shooting stages, the action is occasionally interrupted by small scenes in third person. Honestly, they feel very jarring and some only take a second, making it really questionable why they were put in at all.
I thought I was watching a hero at work here, not an episode of Mystery Science Theater 3000.
You also get some more quips from people usually there to insult you as you are taking too many hits, some of which are truly disarming and taking the PG rating to a whole new level.
Can't we handle this like adults, Mr. Poo-Poo Pants?
The shooting itself can seem quite unfair at times. Okay, I'm quite bad at any real shooter, but here timing can seem insane where enemies will shoot you the moment they appear, at which point shooting them only serves as revenge, although there are also ones who keep shooting you continuously. Depending on where they pop up, they can be small and hard to hit. The hitboxes are also fairly small, so you'll have to be pretty precise. Both levels can take quite long, especially the lab stage when playing as Zack can be a bit of a challenge due to its length and a rather brutal fight against the Major at the end. Boss fights aren't hard, it's just a matter of popping them before they hit you, but if they do get one in, it hurts a lot. The Major obviously doesn't fight himself, so when playing as him it's a bit easier, with the level ending after taking care of Rampike. Depending on how you do, the scenes at the end do change slightly, but again it matters little. If you lose, the other two knuckleheads will still win it for you and will tell Zack that he sucked, so it's more appropriate I guess. To follow the episode and see the most video content, you will have to lose on the island and win in the lab as Zack. At the end there is one final scene which plays out depending on winning or losing the final stage. It goes back to that intro scene, making it again very confusing as people are telling Zack he's an hero, which at this point would mean that he just beat the game they were playing. I never got any girls bragging about beating Kefir, what gives? Whatever, life just isn't fair I guess. After the ending you can enter your name and see your score. Nowhere along the way do you have any idea how you're doing, so I have no clue how this is actually calculated. Not playing at all fittingly gets you 0 points at least. The fact that the outcome doesn't matter much on your performance I think actually fits the premise of the game fairly well. Remember, it's marketed as being interactive television. Having a hard fail state in there would not fit well with that mindset I think.
It's not so easy, is it, Hotshot?
The bad news is, you lost! Big time! Good news is, you can always try it again.
That's right. There's always another day in paradise.
However, there is a conceptual issue with needing to see the episode to get the full context on what's actually going on, but by doing so you already know how things will go, weakening the game's experience. It creates a bit of a paradox. You can also play the individual stages without being interrupted with useless advice. Interestingly enough, when playing the lab stage there is a small section you go through initially which for some reason was cut from the main game. Perhaps they figured it was running long enough as it is. Seeing the stages separately just showcases how little gameplay there actually is however. I actually think the game has some great ideas and mechanics in play and I can't really fault it much on a technical level. It's just built on a rather lackluster series and episode, which for a game like this unfortunately is its foundation. Still, it's a curious game to try out and just have a laugh with the ridiculous premise and acting. It's also fairly easy to find and shouldn't be too expensive.
Well, I hope you enjoyed taking a look at this CDI classic. Do let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And as always, I'd like to really thank you very much for watching once again, and I hope you will see me next time. Now if you excuse me, I've got things to do. So, the muzzle. Yeah, I did beat Duke Nukem Forever. Yeah, that'll be sure to impress. Off to the pool!